Okay, the next repair I want to demonstrate is how to change from an old Vortex Edge to a new Vortex Edge. I've got this blade that I'm going to do it with. The tools you need to do this repair are you need to have a good chisel. You need to have one of our Vortex Edge templates that you can order from us. This will be put on the back of the blade and you can trace out the area that you need to cut to accommodate the new Vortex cap. I've also got a Sharpie marker to mark that template. I've got some rubbing alcohol or acetone to get the excess glue off and prepare the new area for adhesive, and some sandpaper. So the first thing that I'll do, I also keep a heat gun nearby. If I have a hard time getting the glue off, then I'll use a heat gun to heat it up a little bit and to take it off that way. Most times you can actually do it without it. I take the chisel and I get the chisel underneath the edge of the Vortex Edge and I carefully go down through and pry it away from the blade. You're prying the adhesive loose. You can go right down through the back of the blade and lift up that edge. You'll hear it sort of cracking. Then you can pretty much take your hand and pull it away. As you see, this one comes right off. There's some adhesive tape that's on the back, and some of that will stay on the blade. You'll want to remove that. There's also some adhesive that's on the top of the blade, and that's why you want to use a chisel. Sometimes, like I said, it's good to use the heat gun. This is a case where I'll do that. The adhesives that we use, the 2-part epoxies and the 2-part urethanes, they deteriorate very rapidly with the use of a heat gun or a torch. And the great thing about that is that you can easily do repairs, and as long as you're careful, you won't damage the components themselves. So if you heat this, I'm going back and forth, staying away from the direct heat of the blade, or the direct heat of the gun. I'll heat the top, both sides. If you heat it just enough, that adhesive should come off quite easily. You can see it here. It sort of changes colors a little bit too. That gives you an indication that it's heated up and ready. I'll do that for about 45 seconds. And this one is ready. It's coming right off. You can actually peel it right off the back. I keep a rag nearby so I can keep the mess down to a minimum. Use a good sharp chisel. I might add, with any safety measure of doing repairs, you never want to have a chisel pointed toward yourself. You want to have it always pointed away. That way you won't run the risk of having an injury. So most of this glue came right off nicely. There's a little bit more in the face, which I can turn, and as you can see, it sort of peels right off quite easily. Once you've got most of the adhesive off, then I'll use sandpaper and I'll sand it as well. Sand the remaining adhesive away. It also will prepare the surface for the adhesive you're going to use to put on it. Do the back of the blade as well. You want to make sure you get any bumps of adhesive off, is if you put the new Vortex cap on and you've got some excess glue there, you're going to end up having a bump in your Vortex Edge. So you want to make sure that all that adhesive is gone. Now I'll take a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Actually, I use acetone here, and I'll clean the back of it and make sure it's totally ready. Clean the front too. Now I'm ready to scribe and mark out the notches I need to make for the new Vortex Edge. And what I'll do with that is you take the template, and if you're careful, if you do it carefully, you can do it without clamping it, but if you need to, you can use a couple of C-clamps or some squeeze clamps. But you want to make sure you line that template up flush with the bottom of the blade, and at each side the template comes right up to the edge. Once you've done that, then you be ready with your magic marker. You can actually mark the edges of the template at the top corners, and this will show you the area that you need to have notched out. So I've done the bottom, now I'm doing the top. This is a pretty important piece to have, the template. Now that I've got the two areas marked, I know how far to notch it. The tool that's easiest to use is a cordless sawzall. You could also use a corded sawzall, or you could use a hacksaw. Hacksaw takes a little bit longer, but you can do just as good a job. I prefer using the cordless jigsaw because it's done very quickly and it does a nice job. I'm going to get some safety glasses, so in case we have any fiberglass splinters. So. Okay, I've got some safety glasses. So now I can notch out the area to accommodate the new Vortex cap. I start at the end of the blade and go up through. I just notch out where I've got it traced out and marked on both sides. There's a little bit left on the top corner. There we go. Now it's ready to have the new Vortex Edge, Vortex cap applied. The differences between the old Vortex and the new Vortex, our new Vortex is a lot more durable, and it offers more protection because it's a full cap instead of just being the back side and the front's just a little lip. The new Vortex cap is actually both sides, and it fits right over the end of the blade, and it gives you a lot more durable protection. Okay, I've got a two-part adhesive that you can get from us. It's a two-part urethane. We've got these little mixing tips. This side, this 50 milliliter, is a great size for doing Vortex edges or small repairs. We also have this adhesive available in the larger cartridges, up to 400 milliliters. So this one works particularly well because it's got a very, very skinny mixing tip, and you can actually pry the edges of the Vortex Edge apart and insert the tip right into the Vortex Edge and apply a bead of urethane right down through. I'm putting about a 1/8 inch bead of it all the way down through. Make sure you've got enough. You want to make sure you don't use too little because then the cap can work its way loose. You want to make sure you've got enough. If you end up using a little bit too much, that's better than not using enough. You can always wipe off the excess. Now that I've got the glue inside the cap, then you can actually pry it apart as you're putting it on the blade. You'll be able to pull it apart, and you can push the Vortex Edge right on. We've got, it's pretty good to use some bungees or some sort of way to keep the Vortex Edge on as you go. We've got, what I use is a couple of bungee cords that I have knotted up, and this will allow you to keep the Vortex Edge on while it's drying. I'll put one at each top edge, pull back to the corner of the blade, just like that. Get one on one side, one on the other side, and that way the vortex won't come off while it's drying. There, it's got nice even pressure on it. And you can see the Vortex Edge is applied as far as it needs to go. If you get any excess glue, you can wipe it as you're doing it, or you can wait till it dries and wipe it after. It comes off pretty easily with a chisel after. One thing you want to make sure when you're applying the vortex cap is you do have it on oriented correctly. The vortex points should be on the back side of the blade. You don't want to mount a new vortex cap with the vortexes on the front side of the blade. So that's it. We're going to let this dry for about 20 minutes, and then we'll be able to remove the bungees and remove any excess glue, and we're ready to go.